tailored financial advice based on who you are, so replacing a financial advisor. And then this is the one that I think really gives us some indication of possible future. This is a fully automated insurance company with no employees. You join a pool of people, you put your money in. If someone has a claim, let's say for a bicycle, you know how much the claim is worth, they get paid. At the end of the year, you get the rest of the money back. And the company that runs the insurance company only charges a tiny transaction fee. And if they need something changed, they hire a programmer. But there's no managers, no staff, no meetings. It's entirely automated. So in that world, the question becomes, how do we make sure that we really retain a very human future? Well, the first is, all of us are crazy busy in our organizations. We have way too much going on. So we have to start stopping some things, meetings, reports, etc., that add no value, to free up people's time to do some of this deep thinking. Secondly, we have to be thinking on 3 horizons. Firstly, a different group looking at the near term, to the medium term, to the longer term. You can't have the same people doing all of that. And whatever happens in the short term, you can't stop thinking about the longer term picture. We need to think about how we raise literacy, digital literacy in particular. One of the easiest ways is on the web. Every single day there are hundreds of new videos showing how the world is changing, from Futurism, from Economic Forum, from other sources, 30 to 60-second videos. We encourage people to watch 3 minutes a day of those videos. Within 2 weeks, you'll see the mindset change of even the most difficult people in your team who don't believe change is possible. The other thing is get out, do some company visits. Go and see some of these new players who are changing the world and creating radically different ways of doing business. Only by talking to them do you really get to understand their business model and their way of thinking. In particular, we would say, look for those new opportunities. How are sectors coming together? Clothing and technology, agriculture and technology, biology and clothing. All sorts of sectors are combining, creating new opportunities. All sorts of new sectors are emerging. We need to free up people's time to go and talk to them, to understand how their business works and what financial services they need, so we can design the next generation of products and services for them. And finally, we need to look at the skill set we're developing for our people. We need to make our people more digitally literate. We need to raise their curiosity. We need to raise their capacity to innovate. And so we need to be working on agendas like this around problem solving, collaboration, design thinking. Those are the skill sets of the future if we want to compete and differentiate ourselves. So my time is up. I hope this has made sense. The author Graham Greene says there comes a time in everyone's life when you have to open the door and let the future in. I believe that the reason you are running your organizations is that you have a good feel for the future. I hope I've just given you a good sense of what sits on the other side of the door for you and how you can take advantage of it in a digital world to create a more human organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was trying to have a look at the slide during the presentation, and if I'm right, we had no questions there. So please switch the slide to Slido and use the opportunity, because otherwise it will be just me talking at the moment to our speaker. One question for you, if I may use the time. It's few years when Bill Gates said banking is needed, banks are not. We've seen years ago that the digital giants of the past, telecommunication companies, lost their battle, and the digital giants are somebody completely else, because of the digital giants of the past were not able to identify the real margin generator, that it's the content. Now we see that who has the content has the margin in telco, in digital. How do you, based on your interaction with your current clients, see the real chance of existing banks, that the banking sector of the future will be banking sector or sector of banks? So banking sector without banks, because banks will be just infrastructure.
It's very difficult because it's not, you can't just say all banks will, X will happen to all banks. I think it's the mindset thing. So I think you will see a lot of new players coming in who are born digital, who deliver digitally, who serve a segment in the market that just wants that experience. They want it all from their phone. As long as it's clean and simple, they don't care who does it. For the more complex products for corporates and for debt and derivatives and all that kind of stuff, we'll still need engineers to design those products. But I think what you'll see is that more and more individuals will create those solutions and sell them into the marketplace. And then it could be that Google offers that service or a bank offers that service. And it's going to be all about who has the best relationship with the end customer and best justifies their fees. And I think the focus on the customer is the critical one. The thing that banks have today is customers and relationships and face-to-face relationships. The ones who know how to use that well are the ones who are going to succeed. The existing banks who are trying to move away from a branch infrastructure, away from all the physical contact, and to become a second-rate digital version of their digital competitors, they kind of know. As turkeys, they shouldn't be voting for an early Christmas,
Okay, we have a first question. I had ready
and you only have, there are examples of it happening right now. So in China, citizens are getting a social score based on where they go, what they buy, what they say on the social media, all these things. If they say the wrong things, they lose points. And then it means they can't take super fast trains and things. It's starting to impact their lives. In Russia during the World Cup, before the World Cup, everyone was worried about Russian football hooligans and potential terrorists at all of the different football sites. Nothing happened. Now that wasn't an accident. The Russians were using facial recognition on every single person coming into every single city where the games were being held. And if you matched any of their concern lists, you were taken away, straight away. I have no idea where they are now, but you didn't make it to the game. Now that level of, so that's great from a security point of view, but very scary from a liberty point of view. So already people are creating this stuff. We as citizens have to stand up and say, what are we willing to accept? What are we not willing to accept? Now we do it now with things like Facebook. We boycott them, or we boycott Google, or we boycott anyone who we think abuses our data. But we have to be much stronger in saying what we are not willing to accept. Because just because we can do things with the technology, it doesn't mean that we should do it. And that's a choice we have to make. We can't expect the developers to stop themselves, because they're like kids in a sweet shop at the moment. They can just do anything and everything, and the money is there to try it all.
Cryptocurrencies. How do you see this view? Recently, a few weeks ago, there was an article in The Economist discussing that cryptocurrencies adopted by central banks. Interesting idea. These days, the financial sector is to a vast extent controlled by banks through fractional lending. Idea was, if central bank wants to really control the financial system, how about opening an account for every citizen in the country directly by the central bank, and this way directly controlling the financial system through blockchain cryptocurrencies? Would this be or some other way for the cryptocurrencies to the future?
So I think the problem with crypto is that it's got such a bad name because of the volatility of the price, scams, all of those kinds of things. And it's one of those things that most people don't understand. Where I think we'll move to is sort of global tokens of exchange. So whether I earn money, loyalty points from my store, airline reward points, points for posting something on social media, rewards for painting houses in my community, all those will be exchangeable as in a common basket, if you like, of currencies. And my guess is that you'll see central banks bring those to bear. Other people will create them first, but the central bank's power will still be dominant. Governments will basically keep making the other cryptos illegal in some way or other. I think there's a lot of noise around crypto right now. I don't see many governments being willing to let independent crypto providers dominate the way their economy runs. I think the old world will still have a big influence on that, and I think, but you'll see something new, and maybe China coin will be the answer. Let's go for the others. In your view, regulation and degree of need to regulate financial services. My answer is always that we get the regulators we deserve. Right? So if we invest the time in going and talking to the regulators about our plans and explaining the technologies we want to use, they have a chance. The regulator has a tiny fraction of the employees of the rest of the industry, so you can't expect them to keep up. What I think should happen is that the industry should be seconding people to the regulators to work in the regulator for a year and then come back. And so you understand, and you have a much better flow of information. But the regulators are going to use technology. And you only have, I think you have to look at places like the UAE, like Dubai and Singapore to see where the regulators are going, and they'll be using AI to regulate because they know that humans won't be able to regulate all of this. A lot of discussion about data ownership.
Could we please get those questions from top?
Terminator, I've done that one. I'm afraid of the technology if we don't manage it, if we don't say what we want. How will it impact regulation? There's a lot of discussion about data ownership. Do you believe EU's approach for GDPR? I don't. Then human future. Yeah, it's like very human.
Human future. Let's go to that point in your very beginning.
Right.
Human in the business.
We don't create a very human future by trying to fight digital and hold it back and slow down the pace of digital. We create a very human future by investing in our people, raising their digital literacy, developing their other capabilities, and then using their talents not to do robotic work, but to solve new problems, to create new products and services, to find new customers and provide better service. So we use them in the areas where humans still have an edge. Humans might have that edge for another 20 years, we don't know. But I would use people in those areas, and I would develop people's humanity. And I'd also start to recognize that the shape of the economy is changing. My son wants to be an actor. My daughter wants to be a medic. There are now more places available at medical school than there are for acting courses. There are over 1,000 applicants for every place on an acting course in the UK at university level, whereas there are still places left over that are open at the end of the clearing season to get into medical school. The world is changing. We need to recognize that we still love the idea of watching human actors, human singers, human dancers, human painters. I'm never going to watch tin doing that. I want to watch humans doing that stuff. So we have to understand the shape of things, and what will be, the jobs of the future might change quite dramatically. But we have to invest in people. This is a choice thing again. We don't have to give our data. And, I have lots of these toys at home because I buy them all to see what they can do. But then I unplug them. I don't use Google Home or Alexa. I have a little collection of them like ornaments. We don't have to give them our data. We make the choice. And going forward, you're going to see secure services. There are already a few emerging where you give your data, and then your data, the amount of data that's given on to the service providers is very limited. If it's a marketeer, they have to pay to access your data. Or if it's a bank or an airline, they're only permissioned to receive certain things. So I can see a point in the future where you won't know the name of your customers. You won't know where they live, unless they want to give you that. You'll know that the government has authorized them to say they're not a money launderer, they're okay to have an account, but all you'll know is that they're customer 7,847. And you won't know that they're also customer 7,960, because I don't want to tell you that. I want to keep my information separate. I don't want you combining it all. So we'll see that where people will have the right to protect their own data, and companies will have to work with tokens rather than with real user data. Because that's the only way we're going to stop people being hacked. Because I know for certain that none of you will or can afford to spend the amount of money you'll have to spend to protect my data in the age of AI. Because the hackers will they're better than us. They're faster. They don't have to go through series of testing and release, controls. They can release 1,000 different versions of the hack. It doesn't matter if 999 don't work. So ultimately, we have to make your customers anonymous if you want to protect their data. You know, there isn't a way where you can have my data and you can guarantee me that you're secure. It just isn't. Anyone who says that, I just don't believe. Or I call my Russian hacker friends and they you know, they tell me how they would hack whatever you're doing, and you know, they're very good at it. So yeah, I just think sometimes we have to kind of acknowledge what's coming. And in this world, we have to acknowledge that the hackers will always be in advance of us. And therefore, what can we do to protect customers' data? Well, we have to forget who our customers are. We only have to have the token that links back via a blockchain.
Right, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I'm certainly sure there will be plenty of additional questions that you'd like to ask Rohit, and you will have a chance during the coffee break and other networking options during this day. Thank you, and I would like to invite you all for the coffee break that's next to the room.
Thank you.